questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. All right, so welcome to the Zone 1 meeting. All right, so this is the time when we take questions. Look, I've always realized that one of the most important things that any ministry person can do is answer questions. Of course, I know a lot of them don't answer questions for one reason. They don't know the answers, okay? Or their questions are afraid to give the answers to because it's, a controversial thing or something, okay? So look, the questions need to be answered. If I don't have the answer, I'll tell you I don't have the answer, okay? But I think that it's great that we do this kind of thing. Zone 1 is US, Canada, Mexico, South and Central Americas, et cetera. And every other month, we do the live stream version of that. And then this month, which is on that rotation, is the local version of that. So people in the building here will ask the questions. And then we'll see what we can get done here in the next 2 hours, okay? So everybody this worked out perfect because I usually give about 2 hours, and so we have about 2 hours. All right, so we're going to begin with Mr. Rocky.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's going to take me a couple seconds here to get to the point of this question.
You know that's my favorite thing.
I know it is, but that's the way I work. So, this is deep, I think. So consciousness, the ability to recognize right and wrong regarding one's behavior. Consciousness. So you are this indwelling being, the consciousness. And why I say that is because the word womb in scriptures actually means matrix. So it literally, we come through this womb into this matrix and we become into this literally physical world, and we're this consciousness. Consciousness is the Father. All conceptions of itself are children, bearing witness of the Father. I and my Father are one. The conceiver and the conception are one, but the conceiver is greater than the conception. So it's really that we should be so aware. This is how I believe that my bubble's been popped, because I don't believe I had consciousness before that. I was just running with my flesh. I did whatever I wanted to do and however I wanted to do it, whether it was wrong or right. But now I know the difference between wrong and right. And I know when I am living by the Spirit, when I know that when I am doing the fruits, when I am making decisions based on the fruits, and that's what I'm asking. Shouldn't we always know, we should always have that consciousness now, that when we're making decisions, these life-changing decisions, or even basic decisions, that we're doing it in love. We're doing it with joy. We're doing it with peace, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control, and long-suffering. Isn't that true? Shouldn't that be that way? Shouldn't we really know that? I guess that's the question.
Okay, good question. Good question. Look, the bottom line is, I'm going to tweak the definition a little bit. Consciousness is awareness, okay? And the thing is, like Rocky was pointing out, he was unconscious essentially until he had his bubble popped. Really is the idea that he didn't have an awareness of the realities that he was then revealed to him when he had his bubble popped, okay? So yes, when you have your awareness awakened, all right? Basically, think about we've just sort of been existing and functioning the best we could, in the flesh, so to speak. But it's not so much in the flesh like you desired to do that. You just did. You didn't know any better. You didn't have any awareness of other things, all right? You didn't know there was other options. You didn't know that it mattered what you did. So when you have that awareness awakened, now you're conscious. You're not just responding on autopilot and just in survival mode doing the best you can in a moment, but you're now conscious and awake, okay? And so now when it says, I and my Father are one, well, that's the goal, but you have the capacity to get to that goal. So what does it mean, I and my Father are one? It means that you're walking more and more in agreement till that you guys actually look similar in your mindset, your thought process, and your behavior, okay, in our aligning with the Father. Yeshua could say, I and my Father are one because he aligned perfectly with the Father. We can also by moving more and more in that direction, right? When two walk together in agreement, it means how many things, how many aspects of life are you in agreement in? The more aspects of life, the closer your relationship. Which is why a lot of people that are married don't really have much of a relationship because they really don't have enough things they're walking in agreement with except that they're married. They may have one or two, that's why they thought they had enough and they got married. But the more things you walk in agreement in, the closer your relationship. So the Father and the Son have the closest relationship because they walk in agreement in everything, okay, in everything. And so we could call it having things in common or seeing things the same way, all right? And so that's the nature of relationship. You have friends at various levels of depth of friendship. Some are very surface, some are a little more casual, but a little bit more than the surface. Some are a little deeper than that. Some are really, really close. Why do you have different levels of friendships? It's based on how many levels of agreement you have. How many areas, of agreement you have. So like, let's say you have a friend that likes the same sports team you like or the same music you like. Well, then you have one area you guys can talk about that you have in common that kind of bonds you a little bit. Add 3 or 4 or 5, 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, more of those, and the level of depth of the relationship gets closer to echad, gets closer to oneness. So the same thing with your spouse. The more things you have in agreement, and by agreement, that doesn't mean you have to like the same things, but you can look at things from the same perspective. You can walk in agreement, all right? See, if you need things to only be your way, you're not walking in agreement with anybody. So you can even have agreement like, wow, I don't really like Italian food or Chinese food or French food, whatever food it is, but you really do, we'll go to yours. Hey, I like this one, you don't like, and then you go to mine sometime. And we're walking in agreement, okay? So agreement doesn't mean you actually have to see everything exactly the same, but it's how you're gonna handle it that you're in agreement, if that makes sense, okay? All right? Because God, Yahweh made you with your individual personality. And that individual personality is going to have a different way of seeing a lot of things. Not everybody's going to like the same type of music or the same type of food or the same type of art or the same type of anything, right? And so the ones that you have exactly the same with, you tend to connect with more easily. And so, usually our friendships and our relationships are built on at least so many points of connection. But if you want to really have a deep relationship, you have to find ways to connect on a lot more points. And that's what makes the relationship really deep, really close, all right? So does that help, Rocky? Does it make sense in answering that point? Okay? All right. And actually what he really said quickly and skipped right over it is that you're all in the matrix. You all took the red pill. And that's what my brain went as soon as you mentioned the word matrix. All right, Taylor.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
So the verse, 2 verses in Scripture, when it mentions that verse where it talks about there's things that we can do, but not everything we should do, or it's not wise to do those things. And then another one I'm thinking about.
Yeah, because that verse basically says not just because something's allowable doesn't mean it's good for you.
Yeah, just because something's allowable doesn't mean it's good for you. And then you mentioned, I'm trying to remember how you phrased it. It'll come to me in a few. But basically around that, I was wondering so I guess in my brain, I'm trying to see how I can question it. Or phrase the question. I guess in my mind, so for example, the verse about the whole tattoo thing, how we're not supposed to scar our body or tattoo our body for the dead, but then you came and mentioned we're supposed to be maximalists and, not have that on our body and, present ourselves that way. So I'm wondering,
And by the way, the maximalist thing wasn't just to be a maximalist, is when the verse is put where it was, you could read it as only having to do with the dead, or you could read it as just another statement of not tattooing your body. So to be a maximalist, the safer side is just not to do it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, for anybody listening now who's not heard that before, if you already have one, that's fine. That's not what it was talking about. It's saying, as a covenanted person, don't do more of this, or don't do this if you haven't done this, right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, and then, oh yeah, just came. Okay, so, and then you mentioned that there's like, throughout scripture in our lives, we're not going to have like everything or every single issue that we have, we're not going to have like every single answer or specifics in, the scripture about it. But that's why leadership is here to kind of decode that for you. So I'm wondering, like, how does that, with almost in my mind, it kind of, that verse about doing, some things are allowable, but we're not supposed to do, like you said. In my brain, it almost decodes as like gray area for me. And I was wondering if I'm looking at that in the right way. It's like with certain laws that I know are in scripture that you've mentioned throughout teachings, but we kind of leave where they are because it's like, different time, or you have mentioned, or you'll explain it to us in a way. Like, how do I'm trying to see how I'm supposed to see those laws in my brain. Because I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, if I know that there's something that I can do, but shouldn't, like, okay, that's my question. What are the purpose of those things? Why is that there?
Well, I mean, why is what there? The allowable things?
Yeah, so like, what is the purpose of that verse of him saying like,
Paul's saying that, he's simply saying is that there's a lot of things that Scripture doesn't come right out and tell you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
It also, there may be lots of variations of the thing, that some of them aren't so potentially problematic and others that are very problematic potentially. So he's talking about wisdom there, okay? It also may be a timing thing. Some things that are allowable are just not a really good idea at different times in your life, all right? So it's just about getting guidance. And so when it's a specific thing to a specific person, then you get the guidance. By the way, there's also things that some of you can handle that others can't, and some of the things that they can handle that you can't, right? So it just has to be, he's trying to say wisdom-wise, all right? Okay.
So I guess I'm trying to find comfort with it. Is that like, I guess in church, in my brain, I had this thought process, like with oneness, everybody does the same thing. We move at the same wavelength. We all come together. But then if there's another person over here who's allowed to do one thing, and then this person, for me in my brain.
It's not really that. Okay, I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Okay, so I agree with you. That's ultimately what Ephesians 4 is trying to tell us, that we're supposed to have this leadership until we all come into that oneness of completeness, of unity of belief. And unity of belief means the things we believe, we all are on the same page. Now, but I think he's talking about more potentially mundane things, okay? I don't have any alcohol problem. If I had a beer, it wouldn't bother anything. I almost never really do because I don't like this stuff. But let's say, some of you can go somebody's house, somebody offers you a beer, you drink the one beer, you're good, nothing goes on, nothing's a problem. Other people, one beer will send them into a train wreck, all right? So there's something that's allowable, but shouldn't be wise for everybody to do, okay? And Paul was saying, for me, some things that are allowable, I've realized, are not good for me. Just because they're allowed doesn't mean it's good for you. I'm not saying that it's not good for anybody. It just depends on the application, the timing, and who's doing it and what's the context. So there may be things that are allowable that are only problematic for some people in certain situations, or some people all the time and other people's not. And it has to do with their makeup. Doesn't have to do with like, well, how come it's okay for them to do it and not me? Well, maybe you have an issue with it. Okay, so, it's allowable. Look, some of you are really gluten intolerant. It's allowable to eat things with gluten in it. Not for you. It's allowable. There's no Torah against it, but you better not do it. You're going to have a reaction, right? And so that's what he's talking about. There are things that are okay and allowed to do, as far as Scripture is concerned, like it doesn't break a commandment, but it's not necessarily wise to do something just because it's allowed. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, So is that to give people like an individual experience within Torah?
Look, exactly that to a certain degree. Let me kind of,
Okay.
kind of work with it a little bit. The reason you exist, go back to the decision-making teaching I did called Making Decisions, the Reason You Exist. He does allow you a bunch of play. I mean, play meaning that you can work with stuff a little bit, because he wants to see what kind of choices you make. So he doesn't give you this very rigid, every single possible thing in your life, do this, don't do that, then where would be your choices? So he wants to see how much you can apply this thing called wisdom. Wisdom sometimes is not about should you or shouldn't you. Sometimes it's about should I do it now or should I wait? Okay, where's the wisdom part of it, all right? Some wisdom part of it is like, I really want, but it's not good for me. I can't eat that. That bothers me. I can't do that. That affects me, all right? So there has this other element to it that really, Amy, let her have the mic back. She's gonna ask for a call. Okay, so it has these aspects to it about understanding you, understanding what else is going around in the world, and understanding what's the wisdom in that moment. And sometimes that requires guidance. This is where you get counsel. Say, hey, I understand this. If I'm right, do I understand this correctly? This is allowed. And I might say, yes, it's allowed. Then you might have a discussion where I say, but I don't think it's very wise to do that. Under the current circumstances, the ones that you're in, the ones that's going on in the world today, whatever it is. All right?
So it's to allow the person to think for themselves in that moment. He wants to. Does it go back to like, making the decisions?
Yes, it goes right back to that teaching, making decisions while you're here.
Okay.
So you can't make decisions if he makes them all for you. So if he black and white deals with every possible thing, there's no decisions to make except to either listen to him or not. But also part of the decision-making process, Taylor, is getting guidance, where I'm not going to tell you, no, you shouldn't, yes, you should. I'm going to say, I don't think that's a good idea. You and I have had conversations about certain things, and I've said to you, I don't think that's a good idea, right? Now, it's allowable, some of those things we talked about, but I was like, I don't think that's a good idea at the moment, right? And that's where you then still have the power to make the choice. And so he wants to watch us make choices. That's really the most important thing you do in his presence. He wants to see the kind of choices you make, because he's going to give you forever. What kind of choices are you going to make in the forever? Okay, good question. All right, I know it's a little hard to get it out there, but I take your time and get it there. You did great. Okay, Amy.
Okay, first of all, ever since you announced that you and Robertson were going to go to South Africa, it's been really like stuck in my craw. So I don't know why, but it's just like, how come they get to go, whatever. So I've just been praying about it and talking to Yahweh about it.
Okay, and if you want to go and minister to
But listen, you're
200
not,
people here and 90 people there.
but let me finish. So I've been praying about it all this time. And so then he reminded me, like, my late husband had to travel for business. And then Paul, in the Bible, he had to travel to check up on people that he had been teaching, like, and see how they were doing, and are they running the show the way they're supposed to? You have to go in and check. Mm-hmm. And then I remember, and Yahweh was like, remember when you were in Urbana and Rabbi came up there to see you guys and how excited you were? Don't you want them to have that experience?
There you go.
And they're my mishpachah, and I want to, so I'm happy for them. So
Good.
it's taken me a while, but
Good.
he gave me an attitude,
An attitude
help me to
adjustment.
see it.
All right. Well, good.
So this is what my question is.
Well, wait, let me finish with the South Africa thing just for everybody else. So here's the thing, though. You guys need to understand there are those that would treat these opportunities as, a big blessing to go have vacation and travel, et cetera. I went to South Africa by myself last time, 2017. I went to Australia and New Zealand. And you know what? I did 2 sightseeing things because they made me do it. I didn't go there to do anything but work. So some of you think, oh, well, you get to go there. If we do anything sightseeing, it's because Rebbitzon's going to want to do it, and I don't blame her for wanting to do that. Why am I bringing her? Because I don't want to go anywhere without her anymore, and you should appreciate that, okay? Wait, that's only half of it. They need to have a relationship with her too, okay? Because you guys I saw how excited you were when she was back, which is really funny, because she could have left and been back. You wouldn't even have known it, because she didn't miss anything. Except maybe she wasn't here last night for Friday night because they were tired from the drive. Okay, but we see how much she means to you. They need to get an opportunity to do that as well. Now, you have to know, if you know me, I'm just all work. I go there, I'm not looking to go and do and sightsee and do anything else. And so I generally don't. When we've traveled before together, she's gone out with the ladies and they've taken her to see all kinds of things while I busy counseled and did whatever work I need to do. So, I'm just saying, so some of you might have, how come he gets to? And it's not just you, other people might think that, all right? And so it's amazing what people will think. I had one person have an absolute meltdown because I went on a cruise with my money. Not the ministry's money, my money, okay? Well, I think that's extravagant and you shouldn't do that and everything. Well, then you don't go. Nobody's making you go. It's my money, I can go wherever I want on a vacation. But when we talk about these trips, and I'm glad that I've already worked with you that way, so this isn't for you, it's just in general for people, when we go on these trips, yes, it's an exciting thing to maybe go and see parts of the world, okay? I'm there to minister to people, okay? I'm not there to see the world, all right?
And the thing with Paul, when he went and visited those places, and they're like, oh, we follow Apollo, and we follow this person and that person. And then Paul was like, no, you're supposed to follow Yeshua. So I put that with the churches. I was raised in a Lutheran church, and then I went to a Calvinist Baptist church, and then there's John Smith. So like, oh, we follow this person. No, we're supposed to be following Yeshua, not all these other church fathers,
Right.
So like in high school, I played basketball. I sat on the bench for 2 years. Tried to have these career paths, whatever, but I don't quit. I just find something else. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, Yahweh, I sucked at everything else. Let me be good at this. If there's only one thing I can be good at, let me be good at this, And so you learn why you do what you do, become an expert at it. So I think I've come as far as I can with that. And I don't want to dredge it up and keep talking about it. I'm tired of talking about it. So how can I want to be right now and forward and not always thinking about what happened.
Well, you just answered the question.
But how do I get that? Those intrusive thoughts.
You have to then. Well, there's a verse.
Because I'm not that person anymore, and I'm tired of talking about it.
I understand that. So then stop talking about it. In other words, but that's hard to do. So we have a verse that people have used for all kinds of wrong reasons, the idea of taking a thought into captivity. I talked about this when I did the parable of the manager a couple of weeks ago, where you have to have the manager be in charge of everything that's going on in the system. So yes, those intrusive thoughts might pop up. You need to deal with them, reject them, kick them out or whatever, and over time, if you're consistent, they will cease or at least dwindle to almost nothing. But you have to be consistently shutting those paths off.
Now, when I keep thinking about, well, my parents did this, or my siblings, I had sibling abuse, or whatever, well, does that mean I haven't forgiven them?
Not necessarily, okay? It's how you feel about it. If you still have all kinds of negative thoughts about it, then you haven't completely released. That's where you're not forgiven them, okay? If you remember what happened in a sort of a neutral way, or just like, well, that's something that happened, you're forgiven. Because forgiveness is the release of the negative emotional response, okay? Okay, so it did happen. And so you can look back and say, yeah, that's something that happened. It doesn't hurt me anymore. It's not happening now. And anytime that old whatever starts popping up, the key to the key to fixing things is the reality of now. So you go into the now. Is it happening now? No. Then we need to let that thought go. Okay? Did that affect my life? Yes, until now. Now I get to make choices now that I'm aware of these things, right? So it doesn't have to continue to affect my life. So you need to have the manager grab a hold of that thought, because it's going to pop up until the manager starts winning that battle, and say, hold on, time out. This is not happening now. Yes, it happened, but it's not affecting me anymore. I don't have to let it affect me anymore. I can choose now to go forward, all right? Look, I had a lady in the congregation years ago who had some horrible family member sexual thing happen to her when she was like 5, okay, which is beyond atrocious, right? And she was at this point in her 60s or 70s, and I was like, and she was still letting it ruin her life. And I said, the problem is you've never really dealt with this. Don't tell me I haven't dealt with this. I've been to treatment and psychologists and therapists and everything for the last 50 years. No, you went and saw people, you never dealt with it. Dealing with it means that you accept that it happened, it's not happening now, it caused damage to whatever degree it caused damage. Why are you letting it continue to cause damage? That's your fault, okay? Don't blame them that you're still reliving all this stuff. You have to now own that you have choices every moment to move forward or to dwell in the past. And so the more you bring yourself into the present, this stuff isn't happening now. Okay, I'm in the present, it's not happening now. I don't need to think about, yes, it happened. Sure, it made my life a little challenging for a while, but it doesn't have to continue. Okay? So you need to be here, now, in the present. That fixes all that past stuff. And the more you practice doing that, the quicker you'll respond quickly to, the quicker you respond to it, the less it will actually be intrusive. Okay, does that make sense? All right?
All right, thank you.
Okay, it just takes a lot of practice where you're determined to say, I'm not gonna let this thing continue to affect me. Okay? Look, horrible things happen to people. I mean, until I got into ministry, I didn't even realize how horrible, okay? Because I get to hear a lot of really horrible stories. But why, and I'm not blaming anybody for any of this stuff, I want you to get control of this. Why would you allow that person that did that horrible thing to have this much power over the rest of your life? Okay? But that's what you're doing. You've chosen to be a victim. You weren't choosing to be a victim when it happened. Probably happened at a time when you had no control, no power, nothing. It was done, it literally was done to you. But your choice going forward is to be a victim. I'm going to use that excuse to blame and excuse everything that goes on in my life because that terrible thing happened. That's on you. You could have chosen differently. It doesn't mean the thing didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that it wasn't horrible and didn't cause some sort of damage. But if it's 40 years ago and hasn't happened since, that's on you. If you're still letting it have power. Okay, I know you're not going to like hearing that, some of you. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. That doesn't mean it's your fault it happened. It's your fault that you haven't found a way to move on. Because you should be able to move on. I'm not talking about like right after it happens, but we're talking about most of you are dealing with stuff that's 10, 15, 20, 40 years ago. And that nothing like that's happened since, and you've been a victim since then. And you just looked at your life, well, I just don't deserve anything, and this terrible thing happened to me, and all this other abuse that I went through. A lot of people have that. And a lot of people have found a way to get over it, process it to where it's no longer causing harm, still a painful memory, and then be able to move forward, okay? I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do, but it's impossible if you don't choose to do it, if you're just gonna be the victim, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Did I say anything inappropriate, okay? All right? Because I know a lot of you have had these experiences. Okay, why give that awful person that much power over your life beyond that moment? When you were probably powerless at that moment. So I give you no blame for that, okay? But you have power now. Why are you still letting that person hurt you? That person may not even be around, may be dead already, and you're still letting them hurt you. You understand what I'm saying? Plus, this happened to you when you were a little child. You're a grown adult now. If anybody tried that now, they'd be in trouble. So why are you still responding like the 5-year-old or younger or a little bit older, whatever, that you were at the time? Okay? You're not that person anymore either. You have power now. You were powerless then. But you got to wield that power to say, I'm not going to let you hurt me anymore. Now, they're physically maybe not hurting you anymore. You probably never see them anymore. Even if they may not even be around, but let's say they're still around, you still don't see them anymore, okay? Or if you do see them, you have them at a safe distance and they don't do anything. So now why let that hurt your life going forward? But you don't understand what was done. I do understand, okay? I hear these things every single week. Somebody's telling me about these terrible things. And you know what? A lot of them, they figured out a way to get past it. And that's where you have to figure out too. Otherwise, you're going to be the victim forever and stuck in that place. And you're allowing that person to have all that power wrecking your life. And it really isn't them doing it. It's you letting that happen. Okay, they did what they did. They're not doing it now. So if you're still doing those things now, that based on that, why would you give them that power? Okay? You have power now. If you have the victim mentality, you still think you're powerless. I'm empowering you. How do you get empowered? Step into reality of the now. Is this happening now? No. Okay. Accept that reality and move forward, right? Especially when you know it hasn't happened in 20, 30, 40 years. Move forward. Okay? But if you're going to still act like it could happen tomorrow, you're never going to get forward. You already have 40 years of tomorrows where it didn't happen. Okay? Isn't that enough evidence to show you you're actually safe? Okay? At least from whatever that was. Okay? All right. So hopefully that helped. All right, next, Vera.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
In regards to...
Hold on, I'm sorry. For all of you out there, you can spend all the money you want on therapists. You don't need therapists, okay? You need somebody to help you know that you have the power to change, move on. So I just saved you thousands of dollars of therapy, okay? Because you know what the therapist is going to do? The therapist is going to just sit there every week listening to your sob story and empathize with you, et cetera, most of the time. And you're paying them to listen to the stuff that I won't listen to for free. I'm just going to go right to the chase and tell you what you need to do. All right? You got to understand that. You have the power to move forward. The problem is you're so used to the pain, you're afraid to let it go. You've been dealing with fear for so long. Stop being afraid. You are generally safe. Okay? Now, unless you're in a marriage at the moment that's all abusive and you're being abused right now, well, then get out of it. It's amazing how many people I talk to that are actually being abused and they won't get out. Get out. If you're actually being abused. Now, some of you think you're being abused and you're not because you just have all these triggers and you just don't like some of the adverse things that are happening. But some of you are actually being abused. Get counsel, etc. But most of you are dealing with trauma that's many, many years ago. And it's debilitating because you're letting it be debilitating, not because it's actually debilitating, okay? Hopefully you guys can finally figure that out so that you can live and not just exist in this fear-ridden victim place, which is misery, okay? Misery. You have to move forward. Okay, I'm sorry. Vera, go ahead.
Okay. In regards to experiencing burnout in your work or your career, is that a discipline issue, an emotional issue, or a management issue?
No, it just means I have to tell Rebbitzin to give you less work.
No.
She just glared at me. What?
No.
Vera's already behind on things that I'm looking for.
No.
I was making a joke. Okay. So what causes burnout? Okay. It's not that you're physically exhausted. It just means you've been doing something so long without variety that you kind of just hit this point where you're just not excited about it anymore, or you get jaded about it. So you need something to kind of stir the mix, so then that kind of makes the thing you've been doing that you're burned out on actually not such a problem. Problem is, if you've been doing one thing and only that one thing for a long time, career-wise, whatever it is, you can hit burnout because you just get exhausted from doing the same. You're bored. You're like, I just don't have the enthusiasm and the joy in doing it because I've just been doing it for so long. Which simply what that means is you need a break. Or you need to have some sort of mix where you have something where you can kind of take a break or alternate doing something else so that you can regain the joy you had from it before. Okay, we can reach burnout. I mean, at least that's what I hear. I don't think I've been burned out, but that's not true. Actually, you know what? After a weekend like this, I might not want to talk to anybody for a little while, because after all, I've been doing nothing but answering questions all day last night, all day today, and then I've got a leadership meeting tomorrow. I want to be around anybody for a little bit. And so that's just because I need that break, because I've been doing the same thing, you know. Okay, and all week long we do nothing but answer questions, right? People call all the time. So it's not that I don't want to do this anymore. It's not that you don't necessarily want to do whatever you were doing anymore. It's just that you have this burnout, which is a perception that I'm kind of exhausted doing the same thing over and over again. Does that make sense now, Vera? Did I help you? Okay, did that help? So find ways to create some variety. All right? All right, good. Okay, so now we go to Monique.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom.
So hopefully go with me on this little trip. Hopefully it's not too much of a trip.
Didn't I already explain that I don't like to go on trips unless I'm just working? Okay.
All expense paid. So my question is really about kind of getting to the heart of the matter as I'm reading through scripture. So for instance, I was reading about
The heart of the matter? We have 64 parts. Explain to
Oh,
me.
don't worry. That's going to probably be my next one. But I was going through the scriptures about Cain and his brother and kind of that interaction that happened when Yahweh rejects the offering. And there's not a whole bunch of kind of like, you don't see a big process of what's going on in Cain's mind or heart. But you can see that his brother's offering was acceptable, and Yah kind of corrects that. He takes issue and says that it's not good enough. And what I was wondering is...
All right, hold on. Because a lot of you suffer from this thing called rejection, and it's in the language too. Yahweh did not reject Cain's offering. He corrected his attempt at an offering. Do we understand that? He didn't say, I don't want it. He said, you didn't do it right. That's different. Mm-hmm. But you see the language, you gotta be careful with the language because we can tend to see things as rejection that are not necessarily rejection, okay? He was correcting him because he said, if you do it right, won't I accept it? But you brought me something that's not right. So I'm not rejecting your offering, I'm telling you you did it wrong. See, rejecting would mean I did it right and you just didn't want it. And so now you're rejecting me, you're rejecting my offering, okay? So like, let's say for example, you bought me a gift and it's not really something that I would like. And so I say, well, this is not, I might reject your gift, I guess, if I didn't want it or something, which would be very rude, by the way. You just take it and do something else with it if you really is not something you want. But the thing is, this is something Abba desired. Yahweh said, I want you to make an offering. You didn't do it right, so I can't accept this. It's not right. Go back and fix it, and then I can accept it. So there's no rejection here, okay? Is that helpful? No rejection. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the correction that he was given, one of the things that I was thinking of as I was reading that was what was really kind of going on deep down inside of him because his response was so violent. It was such a violent response to getting that correction. And I started to think about how Yahweh or Elohim is giving him truth, right? He's saying, hey, this is not acceptable or whatever else. And I was thinking about how we're made in Elohim's image. And so in his response to killing his brother, it's almost like he's killing Yahweh. I know that kind of seems a little bit weird, but here's what I was thinking of. Because I was thinking of how like with Moshe, you see that same thing. He's speaking Yahweh's word. He's saying what's acceptable and what's not. You see that with Caleb and Yehoshua. You see it with the prophets. You see it with Yeshua. You see it with Stephen. And I see that a lot with. So people come at you because maybe you're saying, hey, your offering is not up to par. Maybe you need to come up a little higher. Am I going way off board with that? Or what?
No, you're just sideways, almost hitting the nail with the hammer, right? Okay, why did Cain do what he did? Because the same reason all of you have the same problem, and you do have violent reactions. I've watched you have violent reactions. Not violent like you're gonna go murder somebody, but violent reactions. So look at how this plays out. Yahweh tells Cain, you messed up. This is not what I wanted. You should know better, right? Because he literally said you should know better. He said, you know what to do. If you did it right, I would have accepted it, okay? So we have huge, okay, Rocky mentioned consciousness. Why doesn't consciousness work so good for us? Because there's more than that floating around in our being. We also have the ego, okay? We've got this pride ego thing. And that clashes with the consciousness. The consciousness doesn't have any ego, okay? But we have this ego thing. And this thing that has me being like, well, I don't like. And so what happens is a lot of you react just like Cain to a certain degree when you get corrected. And so it's not so much that Yahweh's telling him the truth. He's self-sovereign. See, correction only works well if you're under authority voluntarily submitted. Otherwise, you will, in your self-sovereignty, not take the correction. And we see this happen all the time, all right? And this is something you need to understand. And so what's the normal reaction to someone being corrected that's not under submission, under authority? They react with violence. They get loud, they get angry, they get bitter, they make Facebook posts, okay? They don't actually murder somebody, but boy, they can lash out. And so it's that lashing out. Okay, now, so then, and by the way, I've seen a lot of you guys, you get mad at me, you get angry at me, you'll say things about because you don't like the correction. And that's because you're having a self-sovereign moment. If you're self-sovereign, you're not correctable. Only under authority can you be correctable, okay? Now, by the way, that doesn't mean that if you go to correct somebody who's not under your authority, or at least shouldn't necessarily be under your authority, don't expect them to take the correction necessarily from you. And it's not necessarily true that they should take it from you if you're not actually in the right position, okay? But if you are in that position, which clearly Yahweh was, Cain should have taken the correction, okay? The same thing with all the leadership. When you see leadership in different places saying what they're saying and they're in authority, you often see they get some violence when the person doesn't want to take the correction, all right? And so we see this all the time. Elder sees it, I see it, Rabbi Tom can see it. We see this with a lot of people when we try to say, look, what you're doing is not right, you need to do it this way, okay? And then they get angry, they get violent or whatever. Now, the other part of it, Monique, is what was Cain's then reaction? He went to go to the one that we deflect the blame. I messed up, but he said he didn't, so I'm going to blame him for making me look bad. So now Cain has now gone to attack Abel, not because of any other reason except that, well, if you hadn't done it right, I wouldn't look so bad because he praised you and told me I'm a loser. But he didn't. He just said if you do it right, it'll be fine. But this is the way people take it in. Oh, God just told me I'm like a useless loser. And he rejected my stuff. Because you did what you wanted. You didn't do what he told you to do. Now, we don't have the verses in here to say what he told him to do. But he said, if you do right, won't it be acceptable? Like you shouldn't, in other words, the inference there is that he should know that this is something that he had been instructed, okay? And so when you look at that, whenever you want to do what you want and think he's going to like it, that's where the problem comes in, okay? Well, he knows my heart. In other words, you're going to do what you want and think he's going to put his rubber stamp on it, like that's okay. It's not okay. You can't do that. And then, of course, you're going to blame others and attack others because you're going to feel like they make you look bad. All right? I remember being in school, the person that got the good grades, they got all mad at because they were screwing up the curve. You always get 100, we hate you, you know? Why? The person's got the best grade because they studied, did the work, and whatever. Oh, no, but they're making the rest of us look bad. No, we made ourselves look bad. See, and that's where you all have that problem. Look, I've said this many times in the past. Are you correctable? And a lot of you are not correctable, meaning you don't handle correction. Unless it's in the perfect form at the perfect moment or whatever, you're not going to handle it. What should only matter is who it's coming from. Is it coming from the right source? If it is, stop worrying about how it's delivered. But you're going to have to own. So two things are happening there. One, Cain was having a self-sovereign moment. He did what he wanted instead of what Yah said and wanted Yah to accept it. And how dare you reject it or not accept it, but he felt like it was rejected by telling me I did it wrong and then tell me Abel's was good. Oh, you jerk, you made me look bad. That's why he went after Abel, okay? Okay, did that help?
That helped a lot. Thanks.
You're
I just
welcome.
wanted to check my whole thought process. But when you were talking about that, it made me think about how a lot of the time we do take out our anger or whatever else it is on other humans. And sometimes those are even little humans. So like kids are kind of defenseless. And sometimes like even when I was a parent, maybe I didn't have enough courage to maybe deal with the other parent or whatever else it is. So I would take my maybe frustration out on my children, or like we do that in a lot of different situations.
Look, you have to always start off, if you're angry, understanding why am I angry? And who am I angry with? And actually, are they actually the right target for my anger? All right? You know, There were lots of people that have been in our ministry that have been pretty angry with me at times. And they've gone to elder, and elders asked the question. Even members of the congregation that have been angry, he said, what are you upset about? Well, Rabbi, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, was what he said true? Right? Isn't that what you used to ask him all the time? Okay, is what Rabbi said true? Well, yeah. Then what are you upset about? Well, I didn't like the correction. I didn't like the way he said it. I didn't like his tone of voice. Was it true? So what Yahweh said, was it true? Was Cain's offering right? No, his offering was wrong. So it was true. He said, look, you didn't do it right. See, but you don't want to take that kind of correction. So you guys get all over, because you're too self-sovereign. Okay? What's a phrase people always say? You offended me. You hurt my feelings. The word me and my that are in there is your ego. All right? It's not your consciousness. Right? I taught you guys in developing the character of Yeshua, old teaching at this point. All right? That a selfless person cannot be offended. Because it's the self, the me, that gets offended. That doesn't mean that an offensive thing wasn't done. But in order to be offended, well, you hurt my feelings. To have your feelings hurt, there has to be a you. If you're selfless, there's no you to get the feelings hurt. This was clearly a very selfish person in Cain. He was very full of himself. By the way, selfish doesn't mean that you just only want stuff for you. It means that it's still everything's about you. You're full of self. Because some of you are incredibly generous and some of the most selfish people I've ever met. Okay? Because it's all about you. Everything has to be the way you want it to be, the way you see it, but you're very generous. So some of you think when I say selfish, that means a person's not generous. I've seen some really generous people be incredibly selfish because it's still about them, the way the world has to be, the way they need the world to be. All of you blue people understand what I'm talking about? Okay? From the color, we did a personality thing for any new people that had red, white, yellow, and blue, and if you did the color code thing, you'd understand, okay? Some of you blues really suffer with that. You have a struggle to fight, all right? Because you need the world to be the way you need the world to be. I should say it differently. You need the world to be the way you want the world to be because you have a needs-wants disconnect. Now, other colors do that too, but you guys have the worst time with that, okay? So if you want to understand what was happening with Cain, he was having a blue out. Don't tell me and you reject me and no. All right? That was a blue out right there. Okay? And I'm not picking on the blues. I'm very empathetic to it. Look, my wife's blue. I love her dearly, and I understand the struggles that people can have. And all you guys who counsel with me, most of you are having blue problems. I understand what that's. I don't, but you were born with that, okay? Think of it as a diagnosis. And it also has all the great benefits, though. You guys are the most loyal. You guys are the most interested in detail. You guys are the most productive in a lot of ways. You have fantastic traits. But you also have the most stuff out there to get stepped on. Your feelings bag is overflowing, okay? And so all that anybody has to do is have a little touch to that feeling that's flying out there. It means you're aware of something, and boom, you're off to the races, okay? And you got to calm that down, become more selfless. All right, be selfless. All right, so hopefully, Monique, that worked, okay? Good question. All right, Olivier, before you go, so don't forget, let me go ahead and handle this one from here, and then we'll go to you, okay? So you come back to me. All right, so I wanted to bring this up. I don't know if the person's local here, what zone they're in or whatever, but here was the question. But I thought it'd be good to answer on this particular zone because that way it's recorded, okay? Question was, if your teen daughter is refusing to attend fellowship, what do you recommend? Then it says asking for a friend. And they probably are, okay? I know something that, well, it's not for me, it's for this other person, right? No, they probably are asking for a friend. Okay, so what I wrote in the post, I said, every situation has its unique aspects. The person with the teenage daughter issue should, number one, seek counsel with their leadership, okay? Number two, be the one asking the question. Don't ask your questions to other people. But I'm afraid and I'm shy and I'm embarrassed. Get over it. Can we all learn to grow up? A mature adult can ask their own questions. Okay? Grow up. I'm not talking just to the person who wrote the post. I'm saying in general. Okay? If you need other people to ask you and other people to, or, well, Rabbi, my friend asked me to come to you. My friends too. Stop being afraid. You have a question, go ask your question. Because you know what? I may answer it in a way that you have a follow-up question. You just saw me address Monique, and she came back up. You saw me address Taylor, and she came back up. Because it's their question. So my answer may have answered some of it, but then they had another piece to ask, right? So if you ask for somebody and go back with my answer, what if they have something else to ask? So I'm going to answer the question, though, in general for all of you. See, the reason I said unique aspects is because I don't know how old your teenager is. It says, my teenage daughter is refusing to attend. Is your teenage daughter 13? Then tell her to shut up and attend. Teenage 13-year-olds don't get a choice, okay? And if they're messing with you, you have not had the right authority in your house, okay? You don't really have and shouldn't really have this problem till at least 17, 18, because then they're almost out the door. And of course, you're thinking they're not ever leaving. No, you can throw them out. You look at me like, you're out of your mind. No, you're out of your mind. Why would you let that child ruin your house? But you need to be upfront with them. 13, 14, even 15, I'm sorry, you don't get a choice. You're coming to the service. 16, 17, 18, it depends on if you think they can be safe not coming. Because I'm not forcing people to Torah observe if their bubble hasn't been popped, etc. They have to want to do this. Okay? Now, if they don't want to sit in the service, you say, fine, you come with me, sit on your phone, whatever, be quiet. If you need to sit in the hallway, whatever, it's not safe for you to be home by yourself. I'm not going to let my teenager do whatever they'll do when they're off on their own by themselves. My younger teenagers. Do you understand what I'm saying? I had my boy come, okay? And he didn't want to necessarily be here. And I said, fine, but I just want you to be here because I feel you're safe. It'll make me happy. Go sit in my office if you want. Do whatever you want, but I don't want you at home by yourself. That's when he was 16, 17. Now, bear in mind, at 16, you should have all of your children looking forward to leaving. Okay? Not the building, but your house. In other words, becoming the next step, which is an adult. But you look at your child like they're never going to be ready. Well, not if you don't tell them they need to be ready. So I told my children at 16, I said, your next level of growth takes place outside this house. I will let you stay here as long as necessary for you to be able to do that, provided you are actually visibly working towards it and respectful to the house. Two things, visibly working towards it and respect. So maybe they got a job and they're working on getting a better job and all these things, and so they can afford to move out. Fine, you can stay in the house, but be respectful of the rules of the house, whatever those rules may be, okay? If they don't like the rules of your house, they can always move out. And that's what I also say. And if at 18, you don't want to obey the rules of the house and don't want to comply with these things, that door is available for you to walk out. I will have no concerns whatsoever. That's your problem. Because that's part of adulting, by the way, is making choices. So if they want to make a decision, your decision to do what you want in my house that doesn't match what I want is your decision to leave my house. That's your decision, not mine. I'm not throwing you out. I'm not rejecting you. I fully plan to be in your life and help you once you're outside the house. Matter of fact, I work hard to have my children both look at me as a trusted advisor by the time they were ready to move out. So I'm no longer just dad telling them what to do and controlling them. You guys have to, some of you call me with your 40-year-old children, 30-year-old children, and you're still trying to mother them. It's like, they're adults, but they don't know what they're doing. That's their problem. Disconnect the umbilical cord. All right? But you've enabled them to have these problems. Okay? So no, don't make your children, older teenagers, keep Torah. If they want to do whatever on Shabbat, like you're in the house, as long as they don't disturb you, you should have that rule in the house. I told my children, I don't care what you do in your room, that's fine. This house keeps Shabbat, so don't disturb me. It's part of the rules. I'm not going to make them try to study and this and that if that's not what they want to do. This is not a cult. You don't force people to do this. You know who forces you to do this? He does. And even then, you know what? He doesn't force you. He pops your bubble and offers you something. As far as forcing, he'll keep making little pokes at you to say, well, you sure you want to play with this or you want to do this for serious? But that's up to you to hear that from him, to receive that from him. So for all of you with teenagers, as long as you do not feel safe leaving them home and they're under 18, they should come with you, but you should allow them to do something, whatever it is that they want to do, as long as it's not disturbing to the place you go. If you're at home watching on live stream, tell them they could be in their room doing whatever, but they can't disturb your Shabbat. Whatever they do has to be quiet, okay? And not disturbing to what you're doing. They have to respect your keeping Shabbat. Let them always see your example. But their observances or not eventually has to be their choice, okay? They don't get a choice when they're younger. Okay, they're fully under your responsibility and et cetera until they are 18, at least in this country, right? Most countries. And so you can make them come, but you can't make them want to pay attention to everything else. That's why in this, we are a weird congregation, and some of you don't like it at all, that I let teenagers sit like this on their phone in our service. They're quiet. That's all that I care. If they want to hear, they'll put the phone down and listen. And some of them do. Some of them, while they're doing this, all of a sudden hear something like, wait a minute, what did he just say? Or whatever, but it's going in a little bit. But you want to control it. I want them to. But it's individual. You can't force this. Some of the teenagers are like, well, I'm going to tell my mom that. No, listen. You still have to come here until you're old enough to not come here, and you still have to be respectful while you're here. You have to have a right attitude and a right behavior. That doesn't mean you have to pay any attention to anything else and participate in that way. Just be quiet and behave respectfully. We want you, your parents want you to get all this, but they're waiting until you and the Creator have a little conversation, which starts with Him, by the way. We're not expecting you to have that conversation. He will poke you and get your attention. Anybody think was it very subtle when He poked you? Oh no, he's, bam, right? He disturbed your peace and got your attention. Now, he may not have done it real dramatically initially, but once that poke happened, you get a couple more pokes and more pokes until you realize he's poking you. Like the little kid that comes up to you and starts tapping your leg and pulling on you. Mom, Dad, and you want to stop, all right? Okay, my children knew they were never to do that, okay? You can ask my daughter. She went to do it one time. I said, we don't do that. No poking, no tugging on. You can just stand there and say, Dad, and get my attention. I don't do well with the poking. So my kids didn't do that. Why didn't they do it? Because I didn't let them, okay? Your children do most of what they do because you let them. Some of you are like, well, I couldn't control my kids. Well, that's true. Sometimes they are that way. Then you have to at least protect certain things that you can protect as much in terms of disturbing your peace. And you have to do that the best you can. But when they get old enough, they're going to do whatever they want. Do you understand that? You know what adulting is? Full responsibility to make decisions for all aspects of your life, okay? And so you have to warn your children, I've been making all these decisions. You haven't liked all of them, but I've been making them all. Guess what? You turn 18 and you walk out that door or whatever, you're gonna have to make those decisions. And you are woefully unprepared. By the way, if you throw them out, they'll live, they'll survive. I haven't heard too many stories, if any, of anybody that kicked their 18-year-old out and they just died and couldn't feed themselves and couldn't figure something out, okay? They figure it out. They suffer for a while, but they'll figure it out. They'll find a couch here or there and figure something out. But it's their life, and you have to communicate to them, this is your life. It's not my life. It's my life till you're 18. Now it's your life. Did I make that clear? Was that a good enough answer? Did everybody get that? Okay? So if you're not transitioning as a parent, starting as a young teenager with them to say, look, I'm going to be giving you more and more authority so that you're ready to have all authority when you get old enough to move out of here. Now, if you're not doing that, you're setting yourself up for problems by the time they turn 18. You should be giving them things they can make decisions on and let it blow up a little bit in their face, things that won't kill them, all right? So that they learn that it's okay to make mistakes and fix them, et cetera, but you have to work with them to get ready for that adulting, all right? Otherwise, they're going to be woefully unprepared, okay? Now, you don't wait till they're perfectly prepared. Anybody actually feel like they're still at this moment even perfectly prepared for life? Nobody, okay? So that's not going to happen. But you make adjustments as life throws stuff at you. Over time, you get better at making the adjustments because you're not surprised anymore by all the nonsense that life throws at you. Okay? First time it happens, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And you call your parent up and you're freaking out. And you're like, oh, so now you need my advice. You know. It's amazing how that happens. So really, you don't know everything, teenager? All right? So hopefully that answered that question. So please don't ask questions for other people. Encourage them to ask their own questions. Okay, just so we understand. All right, so I covered every possible scenario for this person's daughter. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, Olivier.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi.
Shabbat Shalom. I have a couple of questions more on the Alaric theme.
Well, let's see if we
Following
can get
up-
through them quickly because we do have a line, but hopefully we got an hour still, so we're good.
So following up on some of what was discussed yesterday in the Zoom meeting, there was one question, I believe, about a training or a formation in a Christian setting. And my question is related to that. I was contacted by a Christian university offering me a position of they call it advisory council position, to basically like give them some advice, like just a couple of times per year, I suppose. On that academic, but that's still a Christian institution. So that's something I should consider at all or not.
All right. Listen, when it comes to this question, I did answer it in the zone meeting, but I'll answer it here. Stop worrying about, not just to Olivia, but all of you, stop worrying about who is behind in terms of their belief system behind whatever you're working with. Most of the companies, most of the world you interact with is Christian, okay? It's a very large percentage of owners of businesses and other things that have a Christian leadership of some sort. That's not the problem, okay? The problem is, what is the expectation that you're going to have, and what do you need to represent as working with them? Okay, so someone in the zone had asked, well, there's a training program being offered in the field that I'm in, but it's run by a Christian organization. I said, well, as long as they're not trying to push Christianity into it, but just training you in this whatever field that they're in, well, then you can take the training. So I'm not worried about that training. But it really depends on the level of doctrine and beliefs that you either have to sign off on or you have to push as well. Like, for example, when we started homeschooling our children, we tried a couple of very well-respected homeschooling programs that had nothing but Christianity in every single subject. I mean, math, it didn't matter. Somehow it was like, there was Christianity in there, okay? I mean, in an overtly, openly way, not even like hinted at. And so we had to just get rid of the programs, okay? Because my children didn't like it, because they already knew better. And they saw it in there, and it was very uncomfortable for them. And so really, the only thing I can tell you to do, and this is important for all of you, when in doubt, okay, you have two choices. Either just don't do it, or you can try and then see what the reality is of it when you get there. And if the reality is it's something that is actually okay, then stay. If the reality is it's something that you're not comfortable with, you're too uncomfortable with, then leave. But you can give it a try, all right? Okay? So, it's just like people say, well, my office has a year-end office party. Well, some office parties don't have Christmas in it and other things focused in it because they're trying to be woke and not deal with anything specific. That's fine. Or you go and it's still all Christmas or whatever it is at the end of the year. And so all you can do if you don't know is go, and if you see that it's not really what you should have been there for, you turn around and you leave. And then you don't go next time. Okay? So if you don't know, you can go check out. If you know, or if you're uncomfortable enough, even if you don't know, then just don't do it. Okay? No reason to do something you're all uncomfortable doing. Okay? All right?
Thank you, Rabbi.
No, wait, I'll give you another example. A lot of you know about these MedShare things, these Christian MedShare things, medical stuff. Some of them, most of them require you to sign off in agreement with their beliefs. If you read them, you might not agree with their beliefs. So that may make it problematic enough that you shouldn't do it, because you shouldn't sign off on stuff that you don't agree with like that. okay? It's just something you got to understand, okay? So if you're going to be working on this board as an advisory person just giving advice, as long as you don't have to sign off and agree with certain things and it doesn't have a Christian agenda that you have to perpetuate, okay? Some of you out there going, why does he have such a problem with Christianity? Because it's confusing everybody as to what this actually says, okay? It's misrepresenting this in a big way, all right? All right, next.
Thank you. So the second question was related to the other question yesterday about going into a park on Shabbat or...
Yeah.
So sometimes, like even when I'm here during the feast, I would just walk around the parking lot a little bit just to walk to, after lunch or something like that. Or sometimes I do that also where I live. I just go out for 15, 20 minutes just walking around, trying just to think about, is that okay or not?
Yeah, listen. Shabbat is set apart time, okay? You certainly can enjoy, if you have time on Shabbat, you can enjoy nature, provided you are legitimately enjoying nature and just not having an excuse to go have a picnic, okay? All right? Look, I knew somebody that used to ride their bike or jog or whatever it was that they were doing so many miles every day, and they wanted to justify still doing that on Shabbat. I said, no, you're not keeping Shabbat with that because you're doing it because that's your physical routine that you do. Okay? I'd be more likely to say yes to the person who never goes for walks except on Shabbat and only does that to enjoy nature and to think vertically. Because then it is something that is focused properly. Okay? Does that make sense? I know the other person was trying to justify keeping their routine up. But I bike every day, so I don't want to miss a day. Now you're spinning it trying to convince me you're doing it for Yah and you're doing it to think about vertical, okay? Like I'd never go on nature walks. But on Shabbat, when I was in Florida, my wife would love to go. There's a beautiful path to go on near where her parents lived. And so we would go sometimes and just walk and enjoy and talk about Yahweh, etc. Because I only would do that for that reason, okay? All right? I remember, for example, back in New York, my parents belonged to a beach club. Whatever that means. It means a place where you have a little space and it's on the beach, etc., Long Island. And they would invite me to come and have dinner with them at the beach club on Shabbat after I went to services. And I said, okay, I don't want to do the beach thing, but to have a family dinner, I'm okay coming and having family dinner. All right? So what I do is I would go to the beach place, then I'd walk off to the furthest place away from everybody, sit on the rocks there by the ocean, and just look at the creation and still be doing my vertical thing. I didn't go lie on a blanket somewhere and do some other thing with everybody. I wasn't going to the beach. Okay? But that's where my family was to have dinner, because that's where they were all day and into the evening. But I had to separate myself. So there's nothing wrong with that, provided I'm not beaching, if you understand. I'm not doing the beach thing, all right? But it's where I was going to have dinner. I still had time to deal with until the dinner and sundown and stuff. So I went, found a quiet place, listened to the ocean, looked at the amazing thing that was made by our Creator, had some prayer, had some meditation and stuff. That was fine. Do you understand? You go to a public park on Shabbat because you have children need to run around a little bit, just make sure that you're not doing what you would have done on a Thursday or a Tuesday, okay? It has to be for you part of that vertical thing, all right? Look, if you go to New York, you find the Orthodox bring their children to the park right after service where they could walk right to a park. They sit on the bench in the park talking and having their normal whatever they would have for Shabbat, and the kids are just running around. By the way, they don't bring a bunch of games, toys, and everything else for them to play with. They just know they need to get their energy out. You know, there's 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds that need to just run around like crazy because they have to, or they're just going to lose their minds. They have all this pent-up energy, right? But you still have to make sure that you aren't getting distracted in this place where it could get kind of worldly. You understand what I'm saying? You can't get distracted into that, all right? Okay, did that answer the question, Olivier? Where are you? Good? Okay. All right, Shannon.